Good morning, everyone. You're watching Artie Motoring, and this is the all-new Chevy Blazer. I've only been driving it for a short period of time, but there are some things that I noticed right away that I want to highlight in this video. The absolute first thing that you notice climbing into this car is this rear view camera mirror. I really can't stress enough how awesome this thing is. It really allows you to see so much more than just your regular mirror. The nice thing is you can toggle back and forth between the mirror or the camera, depending on what your preference is. With the camera, you can adjust a bunch of things like the brightness, the zoom, and at what angle that the camera is actually pointed. Speaking of cameras, I wanted to highlight how many external cameras this car actually has. If you go into the camera settings, you'll notice you have a top-down view along with a traditional rear view camera, and you can toggle back and forth between the rear view, the front view. You also have a wide rear view and a wide front view. You have a top-down view from the rear, a top-down view from the front. You have this like interesting third-person view of the back going forward as well as the front going back. You have side-mounted cameras for your rear wheels and for your front. Then you also have a top-down view of your hitch, just in case you were towing anything and wanted to check that out. And one thing I actually did notice, that particular view you can look at while you're driving down the road. It only lasts for a couple seconds, but in case you just wanted to check up on how your hitch is doing, you have it available. The next thing I wanted to talk about were the materials that are used in this car. You have this nice soft touch material up on the dash mixed in with some black plastic, and then on the door panels you have this hard plastic on the top of the door with some soft touch down below and like where your armrest would be, and then more hard plastic towards the bottom. I think the armrest could have been a little bit more padded, since once you get past that soft touch material it's just hard plastic, but this isn't really competing in the luxury car segment, so I guess you can let it slide. Something else that I noticed on the door panels, if you look below the armrest here, you have a little umbrella icon right here on the plastic, meaning that you can keep any compact folding umbrellas right in here. I thought that was a pretty neat feature. Next, I want to talk about this big sunroof above my head. I know a lot of new cars have these big panoramic sunroofs. I've never owned a car that has it, so I just thought that was pretty neat. It's actually kind of funny because once you hit the button to open up the shade, it actually takes quite a long time for it to open completely up. So you'll hit it and then you'll be waiting and waiting and waiting, and then it'll finally open all the way. Next, I wanted to talk about the exterior of this car, specifically the lighting and the looks. Now, the Blazer takes advantage of this modern trend of having very thin daytime running lights with your high beams and low beams being a little bit lower in the bumper. I think this car actually does it the best out of any other car. I think the first one to do it was the Jeep Cherokee, and then you have a couple Hyundai models have it. I just think the Blazer seems to do it the best out of all of those cars. Next, you have just the general looks of this car. I know it's pretty controversial because a lot of people wanted Chevy to bring back the Blazer as this rugged off-roader that competes with the Wrangler and the Bronco, but they didn't. And this is what we have, you know, a mid-size crossover. And judging the exterior styling on what it is, I actually really like how it looks, specifically in the RS trim. I think it's modern and aggressive, and it brings a little bit of excitement to Chevy's crossovers. Now that I went over a couple of my first impressions of the interior and the exterior, it's time to get on to the driving experience. The Chevy Blazer. How does it drive? It's okay. And that's the end of the video, guys. Thanks for, I'm just kidding. It drives pretty well. I think it handles road bumps pretty good. The steering's pretty balanced. It's not too heavy to where, you know, it's pretending to be a sports car, but it definitely feels better than a lot of the numb SUVs that are on the market. It does have the auto stop-start feature, and the thing that I really don't like about this is that for the 2019 models, you can't turn that off. There's no way to turn that off in the settings. There's not a button for it. For 2020, they did add a button next to the hazard switch, but for 19s, you can't do anything about it. It starts up, you know, once you get going fine and everything. I just personally never liked that feature. All right, let's see how it does merging onto a highway. Oh, okay. It's not too fast until you hit about 5,000 RPM. It's not slow either by any means. It still has enough power to get out of its own way, but once you hit like 5,000, it picks up pretty good. Throttle response is good from a start. It's really not too sluggish. I will say that because I believe this is the 9-speed transmission, it does shift a lot, but that's just the nature of the transmission. You really don't notice the shifts. They're pretty smooth. Me, I can just kind of hear them. I'm just not used to it. You know, my other two cars, the one is a 4-speed and the other one's a 6. So to go to a 9, there's just going to be more shifts in there naturally. I will say that the adaptive cruise control is also pretty good. I've driven a Mazda CX-5, and that adaptive cruise was so aggressive. I mean, it would drive up on a car and then slam on its brakes immediately. This kind of feels like it senses the car out ahead of it with enough space to just kind of let off the throttle and then just coast until it gets really close and then it'll start to brake. I think it's a really good system. Overall, I'd say it drives really well for a crossover. Nothing really sticks out to me as being wrong or, oh, they should have done this a little differently. It's pretty solid. All right, guys, those are my first impressions of the new Chevy Blazer. If you enjoyed this video, I'd really appreciate a like. If you want to see more, consider subscribing as I post a new video every week. With that, take care, everyone.